record. All I want to say, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are in the world. Welcome one, welcome all. Today, we're going to be talking about fitness. We're going to be talking about health, and we're going to be talking about getting your sexy on, right? And in honor of that, because it's going to be brought to us by one of the, well, not one of the one and only Stephanie Boland, who is a Guinness World Record holder. She is a bodybuilder and a barrel racer. For those of you who don't know what that is, this woman gets on a horse and gallops around these things and go like tricks that you can't even do in games, right? She does that in real life. She's a real life superhero, and her body is like one. You know the superheroes in Superman, you see they're all like Photoshop and muscles popping out everywhere. She's one of those. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you today the one and only for a while, is Stephanie Boland. Stephanie, it's all yours.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Obam. Super, super appreciate you. And I'm also just going to ask maybe if I can have some control so I can share my screen. If
you can always have control.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I am super excited to share all of this with you. And I know that before I dive in, Dr. Obam has been wanting me to share a couple of pictures with you guys of what barrel racing actually is, because everybody keeps asking me that. So I am just going to show you. So I'm going to share my screen super quickly here so that I can give you an actual version of what it looks like. So just give me 1 second here. Perfect. All right. So this is barrel racing on the top left. So essentially, no, I didn't stand in a barrel and roll down a hill, although I have definitely tricked some people with that. And they were like, what, are you serious? You did that for a living? No, that's what barrel racing is. And then on the right is just a quick picture of one of the competitions I did for bodybuilding. So when it comes to weight loss and when it comes to confidence, that's definitely something that I specialized in when I transitioned into health coaching about 5 years ago. So health and fitness has always been a huge, huge part of my life. It's something that has kept me extremely driven and really dedicated to absolutely everything that I do. So when it comes to the clients that I've had in the past, it's been really amazing being able to see their transformations, going from a place of maybe feeling like if they're not enough to a place where they finally feel confident. So one of the biggest things that I realized throughout my journey when it came to barrel racing, when it came to, transformational coaching, is that a lot of times people don't realize how powerful the mind is and the extent to which your mind actually affects your body on even a cellular level. So I'm really excited to dive into some of that with you guys and let you know and let you in on some of the biological effects that happen within your body, because I really, really believe in empowering people on giving you the reason why you are doing certain things. Why are you eating certain foods? Why should you not eat other foods? That's when you're actually going to be empowered to then take that information and turn it into something that is going to work for you and your body to make sure that you can reach that next level in every single area of your life. So I want to know from all of you, who here really believes that elevated health is actually elevating your consciousness? So anybody who believes that, I want you to type me. If you're watching this on Facebook, type me in the comments. If you're watching this on Zoom, then type me inside the chat box. So I want to see a bunch of me's, and anybody who doesn't write me, I want to be able to share with you why I believe that elevated health is really elevated consciousness. So I'm going to skip to amazing. I see like 13 on here. That is super, super great. So lots of me's. Really glad we have some woke people on here. Love it. So here is the reason why elevated health is actually elevated consciousness. Because as you can see at the bottom here, so this is actually a map that gives you a really good visual of exactly what it looks like to reach higher levels of consciousness and exactly what vibrational frequency goes along with that. So when you're in a state where you don't feel good about your body, where you're unhappy because of maybe the foods that you're putting into your system, where the foods you're putting into your system are throwing off your gut and your good and bad microbiome, which we'll talk about later. When you are not feeling well, when you're not feeling confident, a lot of times you are in the lower red area on this chart where it shows, guilt, shame. What's the first emotion that you feel after you eat something is probably not too good for you? Usually guilt, right? And what's the first emotion that you feel when you look at yourself, or when you go out for a walk, or when you go to the gym or something like that and you're not feeling completely in your element? A lot of times it's shame. Those are two things that really go hand in hand with people's perception of themselves and with their health. So the most beautiful thing that I realized throughout coaching my clients and seeing them flourish into the beautiful human beings that they actually really are, is that it wasn't just about the weight loss. And it wasn't just about getting them into a state where maybe they could do like 10 push-ups or something like that. It wasn't about that. It was about raising their vibrational frequency onto a level of courage, of self-acceptance, because you can see self-acceptance is so much higher on there, and of love. Because really, when we operate from a frequency of love for both ourselves, for others, for source, for Mother Nature, we're really closing that loop and allowing ourselves to be fulfilled on a whole other level. So that's why I really wanted to hit home with that before I even dove in to the biological processes and to food and all of those things, because I like to give you a pre-frame of really how important it is to take care of your body, and that it's not just about walking into a room with confidence. It's about getting yourself to that higher vibrational frequency, because we all know that when we're operating on that higher frequency, we are then attracting all of these beautiful opportunities. We're attracting other human beings who also vibrate on that frequency, that provide us with the same amount of love that we provide ourselves and others. And your whole life starts to flourish and open up simply because you chose to actually start to take care of you. So that is where I'm going to just go off this presentation, so that, because I like to be interactive, I like to move. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here for a second so that you guys can actually see me a little bit better. There we go. Perfect. So when it comes to the three things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about how fear and how everything that's happening right now is actually causing your immune system to be compromised, and how to reverse that. We are also going to be talking about stress and its effects on cortisol, and how that is causing weight gain, and also maybe your inability to lose weight right now. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys a little kind of golden nugget about some gut health and my secret sauce recipe that is actually something super simple that you probably already have in your fridge right now. And it is going to be the cheapest, most effective, using food as medicine, which I like to do, way of being able to lose weight, balance your hormones, detox your gut, and overall feel better. So I'm super excited to share that with you guys after this. So to dive in first, like I said, I like to empower you with why. So I want you to think of health in 3 layers. And this is going to go probably backwards to what most people think. So health is really your mind first. The first layer is your mind. I want you to think that of the first and foremost important thing. Because from my experience, when it comes to even bodybuilding, getting to that level of leanness, there is no way that you can reach that, or that you can reach any goal when it comes to your body, if you don't already have the right tools mentally to have the discipline and the ability to go through with it. You can have literally the world's top coach give you like this freaking amazing meal plan, and if you can't follow it, what's the use? What's the use? So that's where your mind comes in. And you really, really are able to make choices out of a certain area. And I'm going to guide you guys through how to change your mindset for sustainable, lasting change. So your mindset is number 1. Number 2 is nutrition. So nutrition is going to be the second layer. Moving your body is fantastic, but if you're not feeding it with the right fuel, then you're never going to actually feel good in your workouts, and you're going to start to resent it. And then you're going to go a whole backwards cycle that's going to make you just really not want to be healthy. And it's going to make it a chore instead of something you look forward to. So the third thing is working out. And this always goes opposite. Okay, how many people here, and this is a safe space, so please share, how many people here have had this thought? Oh, I'm starting to gain weight. I need to start working out. And then started looking online for, thank you, Fasana, definitely write that down in the chat. Say me if you have done this, if that's been your thought process. I need to lose weight. I don't feel good about myself. I need to start working out. Okay, so Facebook Live people, write it down in the comments too. Me, okay, I'm seeing me, lots of people. So this is actually backwards. Here is what your new thought process is going to be. Okay, so I need to lose weight. I'm not super happy about myself. Number one, I am going to change the way that I eat. Don't even think about working out yet. Don't even think about it. 80% of your results are going to come from your mind and your nutrition, changing the way that you eat. Then number two, you can think about training. So those are the 3 layers. So I want you to reprogram your mind. Anytime going forward now, you're going to think about your mindset going into it. You're going to think about nutrition, and then you're going to think about training. So before we dive into all of that, I want to give you guys a little bit of a preface when it comes to a lot of what's happening right now, because we'll just address the elephant in the room, which is always what, you know, our amazing mentor, Dr. O, is always teaching us to do. So I'm just going to go with that. Addressing the elephant in the room. COVID, you know, what's happening? We're all in isolation. You've got a bunch of junk food inside your house probably, or not even necessarily junk food, but just food that maybe is always accessible to you all of the time. You can easily just go in the cupboard, all of those things. Everything is so much more simple right now because you're at home and you have nowhere else to go. So when it comes to the way that your body perceives things, and when it comes to fear and what it does to your immune system, it's really important to be able to understand how your body functions during this kind of state. So if you're someone who is operating from a place of fear or has felt a bit fearful at all during this experience, type in fear in the comment box. And, you know, be honest, I think all of us have probably experienced a little bit of like, oh no, what's going to happen? Or some uncertainty or some fear, or whatever it might be. Amazing. So I've got some people that are typing in there. So I want to really give you guys an insight as to what happens in your body when you're in that frame of mind. So when you are feeling fearful, fear was something that was instilled in us from our primitive days when we were like cavemen with like spears and, you know, we would eat mammoths and those kinds of things. So Visan is laughing. So when we had this kind of primitive state within us, fear was instilled in us just to stay alive. That's the only reason that fear was instilled inside of us as human beings, was a survival mechanism. Well, usually today, there is not necessarily a bunch of life or death things that are happening in our day-to-day lives. I know some of you could argue that right now with COVID happening, but most of you can probably agree that on your day-to-day life, you're not necessarily worrying about life or death. You're not worrying about a saber-toothed tiger coming in and eating you. So what happens with fear is it puts your nervous system into a state of fight or flight. Now, I want you to think of your immune system as a light switch, okay? So your immune system is a light switch. It's either on or it's off. There is no in between. You can't dim your lights with a light switch unless it actually has that dimming thing. It's either on or it's off. So when you are in a state where your immune system is off, the only time it turns off is when you're in a state of fear or stress, which means that you are in the fight or flight state of your nervous system, which is also known as your sympathetic nervous system. When you're in fight or flight, your immune system is off. That means you no longer can fight off viruses, bacteria. Your body can't self-heal. The body is created to self-heal. It's a self-healing machine. That's what we've been put on this planet to do, is to self-heal. But the only way it can self-heal is when it actually is in the right environment. And the right environment constitutes of 2 things: the external environment and the internal. And the amazing thing about this is that you are actually able to choose what comes into your internal environment. It's a choice. Everything is a choice. So, going back to your caveman, he is in a state of fight or flight when he has a saber-toothed tiger running at him. His body says, oh crap, I either have to run away from this thing or I have to fight it so that I stay alive. I'm going to shut down all of my other systems. I'm going to shut down digestion. I'm going to shut down healing. And I'm going to put all of my energy into fighting this thing off or running away from it. And the way that it puts all of its energy is using the hormone cortisol. Now, cortisol is meant to be released in order to provide you with the energy to fight or run away. What cortisol does is it's like the opposite of insulin. So I know all of you guys know what insulin is, right? It's the hormone that gets released into your bloodstream when you eat, especially if you eat sugary, carby foods, that takes that glucose, shuttles it into your cells as glycogen. So insulin takes glucose, shuttles it into your cells to store it. What cortisol does is the opposite. Think of it as the opposite of insulin. It takes that energy from inside your cells, that glucose, and it puts it into your bloodstream so that you have the energy to fight the tiger or run away from it. But now I'm going to ask you, what happens on a day-to-day basis when you have stress and when you have fear and when you have anxiety? All of these things are all on the same vibrational frequency. They all make your body think that you are in that state where it needs to release that cortisol and has all of that blood glucose flowing in your body. But you're actually sitting on your couch. You're watching the news because you're scared to death about what's happening. So where's that glucose going? Nowhere, because you're not fighting anything and you're not running away. So your body's not utilizing it. So then what happens? It stores it as fat. See how this all lies and how this all is totally intertwined in actually making you understand now why fear and why stress is one of the worst things for you when it comes to even your body composition. Now, this is not even touching on all of the rest of the nasty things that cortisol does. This just has to do with weight gain, but using that same way of being able to go through that, because now you understand what happens, that means that cortisol can also be something that causes insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. You can actually end up with type 2 diabetes because of stress. It's actually a thing. I actually ended up with insulin resistance because of chronic stress. And the only reason that I was able to stop it before going to type 2 diabetes was because I had the understanding of nutrition, so I could change my nutrition around and really get myself into a mental state of calm multiple times a day, and really started to create a method for me to not have to go through the same amount of stress as I did before. So that's why I'm really passionate about it, is because it's happened. You know, I was an athletic person. I was never overweight before. And I ended up with insulin resistance, all because of stress. So I really want to take that home with you guys so that you really understand how important it is to be able to have proper coping mechanisms to cope with stress before it turns into something chronic. Because here is how cortisol is supposed to work, because cortisol doesn't have to be bad. Cortisol is fantastic if it's in short bouts. So this is how cortisol is supposed to work. I'm French, so I like to use my hands. So I'm just going to draw stuff out with my hands for you guys. This is how cortisol is supposed to work. It's supposed to go up. You're supposed to fight or run away, and then it goes down. That's the healthy response with cortisol. But this is what happens with our day-to-day lives when it comes to being, you know, bombarded with all the information and all of the people that are stressing you out, maybe the coworker that is like doing this in your ear and you're just getting frustrated by them, you know, maybe the boss, maybe the spouse, whatever it might be. This is what happens to your cortisol. It goes up and then it stays there. And that is where the danger lies. That's where you start to end up with the insulin resistance, with a lot of precursors to disease, because that's exactly what disease is. Dis-ease. 88% of disease comes from stress. Stress causes the response in cortisol, causes the glucose to be in your bloodstream, causes inflammation. Inflammation turns into more dis-ease. So if you can actually start to put your body in the right atmosphere and in the right environment, you can actually act from a preventative side and prevent so many major health complications. Yes, even things like cancer. I'll be bold enough to say that. I'm not going to say for all of them, but I'm going to say it's a very good way to prevent some of these things from happening. Yes, even like cancer. Yes, even like, like I said, type 2 diabetes. Yes, when it comes to hormonal imbalances, hormones are really where it's at when it comes to being able to keep yourself healthy and at a good state. So here lies the question now that you are probably asking. Okay, this is awesome, Stephanie. That's great. You've told me all of the nasty things that stress are going to do to my body. That's awesome. I'm aware of that. But how the heck am I supposed to stop myself from getting stressed out? That's most likely what you guys are all thinking. If you guys are thinking that, then just write yes in the comment box, because I'm sure some of you guys are. Because I might have actually stressed you out a little bit just by telling you that. So now we're going to work on how you cannot be so stressed. And this is really where I like to bridge the gap between your mindset and your body. So when you think of fear, is fear really fear if you're not afraid? Ask yourself that question. If you're not afraid, then what is fear? It's nothing. It's not there. And how are you able to get yourself to a state of being not afraid? Well, when you look at two people, some people are afraid of snakes, some people go up and they hug them. Some people they're scared when they see a spider, other people go up and they pick it up. So really, what is fear? Fear is all about your perception. There's a reason why your amygdala, which is the emotional response center in your brain, is inside your brain. It's because you have a chance to choose whether or not you are going to allow something to get to you, to the point where it's going to stress you out, where it's going to get you so afraid, get you so worked up that all of those not so good processes in your body start to happen. You have a choice. So your choice and your ability to stay healthy lies within your perception of what is a stressor, what is fearful, what is even anxiety to you. So it comes down to redefining that. And it comes down to awareness, because you can't change something that you're not aware of. So here is the new way that I want you to start to change your internal dialogue whenever you get faced with a stressful situation, and also when it comes to COVID and everything that's happening. Now, if you want to ask me what I've been doing, I haven't watched the news once. Not once. There's other people in my house that watch it all the time. They have it on. I go upstairs. I don't want to hear that. I don't want it going into my subconscious mind. It's not going to change the fact that I know I need to self-isolate. Knowing how many people are suffering is not going to change. I know it. I feel it. I don't need to remind myself of it 1,000 times a day. So, number one, stop watching the freaking news. No more news. Turn it off. Number two, getting yourself into a state where you choose what you want to put your energy towards. If you are surrounded by, let's say, people that are talking about it, or let's say even not on a COVID state, but if you're driving in your car and somebody cuts you off, are you going to allow that to get you so angry to the point where it affects the rest of your day? Or are you going to have this kind of internal dialogue? You know what? I love myself so much that I'm not going to allow that person that cut me off to get my stress levels up, to increase my cortisol, and to put myself and my body, my temple, at danger for creating disease. Because now that you are aware of the depth at which stress, fear and frustration can affect your body and your temple, it's now your responsibility to prevent it. And the prevention is always with love. It always starts with love. That is the answer. If you approach any situation with love for yourself, number one, and then love for others, you're going to understand why you really don't need to stress out that much about probably 99% of the things you're stressing out about. And you're going to start making decisions that are going to reflect that. And they're also going to allow the rest of your life to prosper. So this is the new dialogue that I want you to have in your head. Oh, this person, maybe it's my spouse, maybe it's somebody else. Maybe they're kind of like talking to me and whatever they're saying is getting me frustrated. Become aware of the fact you're starting to get frustrated, number one, or stressed, or you're scared. And then number two, you have a choice. And now your new choice is going to be to tell yourself, you know what? I love myself so much. So I'm going to choose to surrender to this situation, as Dr. Obam always likes to say, and he has taught me that. So thank you, Obam, for teaching me, the amazing way to surrender to things and how the surrendering is actually the most powerful thing you can do. So you're going to choose to surrender to it, and then you're going to choose to respond in one of two ways. You're either going to choose to let that thought dissipate or completely detach yourself from that person, that situation, whatever it might be. Or you're going to then choose to respond to them with a state of love and be able to get yourself into a place where you are calm. And if you're not able to do that just by your thoughts, take 3 deep breaths. And I know that sounds generic, but again, I'm going to give you the biology behind it. When in your life, if you are scared of running away from that tiger, that you are going to stand there and be like, no, your body's not going to do that. Your body's not going to take 3 beautiful, deep, slow breaths if you're trying to run away or fight off a tiger. So what are you doing when you take 3 deep breaths? You are tricking your body into realizing that it's in a state of calm. Because it only takes those deep breaths when you're sleeping, or when you're meditating, or when you're sitting beside the ocean with the waves crashing and you're smelling all the beautiful ocean air. So those are the ways that you can respond, and you can actually trick your body into realizing that it is calm. It doesn't need to be afraid of all of the stressors that are happening around it. And then you can actually prevent further disease, and you can actually prevent yourself from having future weight gain, struggling with having weight and not being able to let it off. And you're going to be able to act from a total preventative state and let your body do what it's meant to do. And that is self-heal. Because the moment you are calm, the moment that light switch, that immune light switch that we talked about at the beginning, flips on. And the moment that immune light switch flips on, your body is then an amazing self-healing machine that can then go and fight off all of those viruses. It can clean up all those bacteria that you're exposed to. And it can really do all of the processes that allow you even to maybe not age as quickly. And it really allows your cells to recover and repair. So I want you to really think of that the next time that you are faced with a stressful, fearful, or potentially anxiety-provoking situation. Remember this, and remember to respond with love. Now, that segues into a little bit deeper about cortisol and why responding with love is really something when it comes to mindset and when it comes to weight loss and keeping your body in a really, really amazing state, is how it always needs to come from love as well. So at first, when I started coaching, I didn't use this. And I was noticing sometimes my clients were struggling and they were saying, I feel like I lack the motivation, or I feel like I lack the dedication. Why can't I stick to this meal plan? And that's when I started to think. I was like, okay, what's actually going on in their mind? What actually went on in my mind when I first started on this journey of mine to better health and more vibrancy? And then I realized that the only way that changes can actually be sustainable is when they come from a place of self-love. When they come from having the internal dialogue with yourself that you repeat over and over and over again in your head of, I'm going to choose to eat that salad, not because I hate my body and I'm this weight, I should be this weight, so I have to eat that salad so I can actually look good in a bikini or in a bathing suit. That's the dialogue you have, you will never have sustained weight loss ever. And I'm just going to put that out there point blank. It's not going to happen. That's why you yo-yo, is all because of the way you approach it. But if you change your mindset to saying, I'm going to eat this salad, or I'm going to eat these extra vegetables because I love myself so much and I want to feed my body with the absolute best nutrients so that I can be at my best and then offer even more love to the people that I care about, that's where you start reaching sustained results. And it's all about mental reprogramming. And it's very simple. Now that you're aware of it, just have that awareness and change the dialogue. Have that dialogue with yourself. These are actual actionable things that you can use starting today that will make a huge difference. And asking yourself, anytime that you go to eat something, where is it coming from? Is it from a state of self-deprecation, or is it from a state of love? And I can guarantee you that if you say, I'm going to eat this because I love myself, and you're about to put a Mars bar in your mouth, it's not really going to jive. And you're probably going to maybe rethink the Mars bar a little bit too. But instead of doing it from a place of scarcity, you're now going to be operating from a place of abundance and say, I want to crowd out all of these other foods that I used to add into my body just because I love myself so much. So I'm going to actually eat way more kale, because that's, to me, is my go-to superfood is kale. Maybe I'm going to eat more amazing salads and have them full of color and add beets and all of these amazing different nutrients just because I love myself so much. So that's one actionable thing that I would love it if all of you would be able to start to use starting today, and share it with other people too. If you find it starting to work with you, I would absolutely love to know, feel free to share that with others, because it's something that is extremely powerful once you start to utilize it, but not a lot of people even realize that you need to go that deep before you create lasting change. So another thing to dive into with that is going back to cortisol and going back to the reason why a lot of people end up with kind of a profile. So I'll give you a profile of someone who is struggling with stress, someone who has chronic stress, and maybe why you're struggling with losing weight, especially around your midsection. So when you have a lot of cortisol in your system and it's a chronic thing for quite a while, a lot of times your body is actually going to store fat in your midsection and in your stomach. So you can actually tell based off of your profile and off of the way that you're looking, potentially what hormones are off. When it comes to things like estrogen and estrogen dominance, usually that's more around your hips and your lower body. So, I'm not going to dive into that side of it today, but just to give you an idea of, your body really does speak to you. Your body really does tell you exactly where the issue lies. We just have to listen. So I want everybody to type in the chat box or in the comments, I want you to type listen in there, because that's what we need to do. We really need to start reconnecting to ourselves and reconnecting to our body in a way that we actually can help it heal just by listening to it and becoming more in tune. So when it comes to other things that cortisol cause, so I already talked about the fact that when it comes to insulin resistance, it can really cause a lot of issues with that. But think about it even, and this is more, I'm talking to the ladies more here, when it comes to cortisol causing potential insulin resistance. Well, insulin resistance actually does lead to fat storage. And interestingly enough, fat storage actually leads to estrogen dominance because of the fact that estrogen is stored in your fat cells. So the more fat cells you have, a lot of times the higher your estrogen levels will be. And a lot of us know, especially us women, we know that having estrogen levels that are not in balance with our progesterone can cause a lot of dysfunctional issues when it comes to our system, can cause skin issues, and it certainly does cause weight gain, especially on like hips, thighs, those kinds of things. So really, when you think of it, that's why I'm focusing mostly on cortisol and stress right now, because I like to go to the root cause, like all of you other conscious leaders on here like to do. And really, it is stress, because cortisol affects every other major hormonal system in your body. Because what it does is it steals from everything, because your body is prioritizing fighting from that tiger or running away from it. So the cortisol is going like, wah, and it's literally like stealing all of the energy and all of the processes from all the other hormones, and it's saying, no, it's all mine. So that's why you really need to address stress as number one. Fasana typing, wah. Cortisol is evil like that. So let's stop it before it actually gets to a point where it's causing all of those nasty other issues in our body, and actually start to get it to a place where we're using cortisol the way it's meant to be. You know, tiny little spike, and then it goes back down, and all is good in our world. So I want to give you guys some actionable things, because I love action. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking, maybe my cortisol has been really high for a long time. So what am I supposed to do about that? Obviously, now you have the tools to prevent it, but you also want to know how to deal with it if it's happening. So a lot of things actually come down to nutrition at this point, because now you have the mindset tools to be able to get yourself into a state of calm. You understand all of the mindset behind it. Notice how I started with the mindset, because that's number one. You got to start with your mind first. Now I'm diving into the nutrition. So nutrition behind if you have been chronically stressed for a long time. And this is also going to give you tools so that when you do reach a really stressed out state at some point in your life, because sometimes we do, let's just face it, at least now you're going to know how to tackle it so that it's not going to make your body fall into all of those nasty processes that we just talked about. So when it comes to being able to cope with stress from a nutritional perspective, remember how cortisol releases glucose into your bloodstream, right? What does eating sugar and eating processed foods do the most? I'm just gonna wait here and see if some answers come up in the chat box from, I know, some pretty amazing things. Daniel's saying bad things. Yes, it does bad things for sure. But what is the main thing that happens when you eat? Fasana, inflammation. Yes, 100%. Gold star. And what is the other thing? You know, it releases glucose, right? You have glucose, you're eating glucose, and then your body then converts it into glycogen and stores it into your cells. Imbalanced blood sugar levels. Exactly. Amazing. Phoenix raises your blood glucose, 100%. You guys are on it. So if you already have elevated blood glucose levels because your cortisol is high, because you're stressed out, do you think that eating a donut, do you think that eating bread, do you think that eating a lot of processed carbs are going to help your body? Probably not. You guys, exactly. Daniel's saying, no, he is on it. I love it. You guys are super smart people. So you all know that now you understand what's happening in your body, that those things are really going to cause even more disruption in your system already. So what we want to do, if you are in a state of chronic stress, or if your stress is elevated, is stay away from the super sugary, the super carby foods. And I know that a lot of times when we get into a state of chronic stress, we just want to drink that coffee and we just want that sugary donut, because that's our body telling us that our adrenal glands, which is where your cortisol come from, are stressed. So if you are craving salty and sugary foods like crazy, if you are feeling anxious, if you can't sleep at night, and if you have weight gain on your midsection, these are all indicators that you probably have some chronic stress happening. And those are indicators that